In 204 AD, Hippolytus, a Christian writer in Rome, recorded that the bishop was convinced that the Lord was going to return immediately. So he urged his followers to sell all their land and possessions and to follow him into the wilderness to await the Lord's coming. At the end of the first millennium, anticipation of the second coming again ran high. On the last day of 9999, three times, the Basilica of St. Peter's at Rome was filled with people who were weeping and trembling, waiting for the world to end. It was in 1978 that the media sort of flashed the shocking news of a mass suicide at a place called Jonestown in Guyana, where 914 American men and women, members of a doomsday cult, they call the People's Temple, at the instruction of their paranoid leader, Jim Jones, or Reverend Jim Jones. And so they thought that, and they committed suicide because they felt that the end of the world was already near. They thought they knew God. They thought they knew His ways, but they were mistaken. They read wrongly. Sometimes we come before God with expectations, our own expectations. Sometimes we expect the expected because God had said so. Then sometimes we also must be ready to expect the unexpected. For that, many of us are not ready. First, we find that people always come with expectations. They expect a perfect ready-made church or ready-made world, trouble-free relationships. We expect people to be supermen and superwomen. And at the same time, there are other expectations that are a little deeper. We tend to assume and desire things in a particular way. And it is always in a predictable way. We look at life as predictable. I want it to be in this way. We sort of determine how it ought to be. Many attempt to understand events in such manner. We want events and what happens in our life to be very, very predictable. And therefore they apply the very simple principle of cause-effect, or sow and you reap. Give, receive theories to life. We have a very simplistic mind that is everything happens because of what I do, therefore I have a result. See, cause-effect kind of approach. So these are the people who come with expectations. Then there are some events that we can expect. Why we must expect? Because it is written, because it is recorded. And the Bible accounts for it. The Bible talks about the predictable. There are prophecies of the people of God. We have prophecy, and the promises of God are also written down. And here we have evidences in the time of Prophet Isaiah, people from exile returning. It was already foretold that they will be taken away in exile and they will return. These accounts took place. Then when we look at the Corinthian people, St. Paul is talking about persecution and deliverance experience. They experienced that this will come, and afterwards there will be a time of deliverance. God will set them free. It happened. Then in Paul's life also, a faith lived. I lived my faith and I experienced the love of God. And this is another dynamics that we see in scriptures, that we can expect this. You find that when we do this, when we are obedient to the word, you find that the word itself comes to bear fruits in our lives. So you find that St. Paul is talking to us about believing in the expected. And that is why he said, the grace of God is poured abundantly on those who walk their living faith in Christ Jesus. You walk the faith, graces will pour. Walk the faith, graces shall pour. And this is the expected. And this is a given. And this is the way God works. And that's what He has promised. If you draw near to me, I'll draw near to you. All this has been said. It's just that we are far. So when we are doubtful about it, then we find God does not distance Himself, but we ourselves distance ourselves from God. We create the gap. It's not that God created the gap. God is always there. But we created the gap when we begin to look at God differently, or we want our own agenda, or we live our own agenda. Okay? So this is the second kind of expectation we see. Then what about the unexpected? When we talk about many things happen in our life, it's unexpected. We never expected the COVID. Although some say it is designed, it's a planned pandemic. Some people say, a lot of conspiracy theory they say. But whatever it is, what are the unexpected? These are the surprises that come our way. We never anticipated them. We never factored them in when we are making our calculations, and suddenly these things happen. Okay? You never expected, Johore never expected Singapore to shut the borders, or Singapore expected Malaysia to shut the borders. You find all this, everything is affected. So you find there are many of these unexpected things that happen. And one of them is that the timings and times of the return of the exile. They never saw. Though God told them, told many prophets, especially Prophet Isaiah, that your people will return, but they did not know when. It took them many years before they came back. Before God, and God saved them not through Israelites. God brought them back using foreign kings. Strange, He used Cyrus, a Persian, to save the people. Bring the people, set them people, go back and build your temple also. It's surprising, And this is, it's beyond the comprehension of the Israelites. Because they always thought God was God of the Israelites only. But here God working using foreigners. So we find the return of the exile, return of the Lord. When will the Lord return? Even Jesus said, only my Father knows. The Son of Man also does not know. Okay? So you find that the second coming, the return of God, our death, our return to the Lord also is unexpected. Nobody knows, nobody can tell anything. Okay? So besides this unpredictability of time is unpredictable, we also talk about the grace moments. Grace moments are like flashes, like explosions. Suddenly God enters into our life and we are shocked. Like in Paul's life, that was a grace moment when God just flashed into his life on the way to Damascus. So are we. So many of us have our own experiences of God. God suddenly bursts into our life. And that is unpredictable, is unexpected. Okay? It's like an explosion. Suddenly something, God enters into our space, into our time, and He creates something for us. And these moments are very special. These unexpected moments are very special because not only God moves into our life, He fills us with a certain happiness. And not only fills us with happiness, suddenly He just makes us realize His love is so immense. Very overwhelming His love. Immense love. And that is not because you deserve it. It's because when we don't deserve it, He just reminds you that He loves you. And that is what happened. And you find that when we are believers, and if we are believers, we must expect the unexpected. When we want things to happen, it doesn't happen. When you let go and let God, things happen. It's very strange. You find that He's a God who wants us to walk in faith, He doesn't want us to walk thinking everything you can plan and make things happen. No. Expect the unexpected. And if you're a believer, you must expect the unexpected. Be ready to be surprised. Be ready to be shocked also sometimes. Ready to be slapped also sometimes. Sometimes you get a slap from God also, Okay? So you find that the day of the Lord is this, when God enters into our space, when God enters into our time. It's not just the end of the world. It's every moment when God bursts into our life, it is the day of the Lord. And so for this day of the Lord, you find that it becomes very real to us because it also makes us, there's a certain awakening taking place in us. It awakes in us something. One, the sense of sin. Each time when God bursts into our life, He always makes us aware, awakes in us a sense of sin. The Israelites, during the exilic time, when they were in exile, they were able to say, we have strayed. Our hearts are hardened. The first reading, if you look very carefully, we have sinned. We have rebelled. No more invoking of God's name. They don't even call God's name. This is a sense of sin. See? Then number two, a sense of helplessness. After the sense of sin, you must go into what is called a sense of helplessness, saying that I cannot do it. I need God. And they were aware of that. And they admitted that they had withered and were easily blown away and given way to the power of sin. Certain helplessness. That they are powerless. What I want to do, I don't do. What I don't want to do, I do. This is powerlessness. Then it slowly moves into the sense of the ways of God. After all this, first you look at your own self. Then you begin to realize, hey, I'm in the presence of a God. His ways, the ways of God are different. Then they knew intuitively He was their Father. Even though they know there was sin, they use that word in the prophet Isaiah, our Father, our Father. There's a certain connection. As a sinner also they see themselves that God is their Father, the Redeemer, who moved mountains, who tore open the heavens, and then guided the trusting, angry with the sinners. They saw always, this is our God. One, knowing myself, then I begin to realize who my God is. And then the image comes to them. God is the potter, and I am the clay. See, beautiful. They saw God as the potter, and He has, He is creating and fashioning us. They saw that. Then the sense, after that experience, there's a fourth sense, the sense of self in God now. Earlier was sense outside, now sense in God. In God, they begin to see themselves. And what did they see themselves? Out of their mouth, they come out. We are the works of God. We are the works of God. God has created us. We are the product of God. God created me. That's how they saw. See? So you find that He's the potter, has made us into beautiful vessels, beautiful pots for His use. And last of all, you find that what is called the sense of grace. That everything is grace. God's initiative, not my work. God made it happen. So Paul reminded the Corinthians of their call. This call is in Jesus Christ. You did not earn it. It's given to you. And then what happens is that Jesus says, no, you are called to be doorkeepers. So our life here, we are a doorkeeper. We open for God to enter, to God to come in, God to touch to other people, to us also. See, we are not for ourselves, no? Salvation is not for ourselves. Salvation is for others. So we are the doorkeeper of grace. We are the doorkeeper of the coming Lord. We are the doorkeeper to make God present to people. Open the door that people experience Him. Then open the door that you also constantly experience Him. See, you are the doorkeeper. And He says, you are the doorkeeper. Be ready. When the Master comes, just open and let Him be known in your life. and to your family, to others. So this is how God works. So finally, you see there are two things that we need to do during this time. We are called to sense. We are focused on what are we sensing. We are supposed to be alive to situations. So what are we sensing? What kind of time is this? Or am I just flowing? Okay, what are we sensing? Number two, what we ought to be doing. This is the second question. And these two questions will help us prepare ourselves for anything. Okay, what are we sensing and what are we being called to do? These two questions. So you find that as doorkeepers to our own soul, we are responsible. God can come in, God can be kept out. We have the control in that sense, doorkeeper. So therefore, let us be on guard, let us stay awake, and be ready for the master to appear. So be ready for the master, because you are the doorkeeper. So you have the potential to let God touch your life or to let God touch other people's life through you.